So a lot of what happens in the economy, most people are unaware of. We worry about making ends meet, moving month to month. That's where most people live. And so when we take a step back and we try to view this in terms of what you just described, so it's a two-part question. What are the signs? What are we looking for? How do we know this is happening? Other than they've called it out, they said they're going to do it. What are the elements that we're going to see take place? And we can then go, that is connected to what they said over there. So what are we looking for? And
Sure.
and do you think that this is viable? I mean, having an idea is one thing. Wanting to lock the whole world down is an idea. But can it happen? Will it happen? What is it going to look like?
Sure. So what I would say is people need to, people have to learn to look past words and look more at like actions, right? Like don't listen to what I say, look at what I do, kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
And so, today we've seen the left pick up on saying that like capitalism is evil, capitalism is slavery. And it's like, well, capitalism is like, controlling my capital and having like a free exchange, like a free market of goods. And so slavery isn't free. So like, just because you call slavery capitalism, it doesn't work, right?
Right,
like,
right.
You kind of have to look past that. And so what I would do is I'd say, let's throw all the words away for a minute. And instead of socialism or fascism or communism or whatever, capitalism, and instead of any of those words, just look at the world in this way. There's two systems that we have. There's either one, a captured, controlled, centrally planned model, or a free, open, competitive model.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we have. Now, whatever ism you want to attach to it, those are really what we have. And so how do we know we're going that way? Well, socialism or communism, as Klaus Schwab says, you'll own nothing, you'll be happy, is obviously a captured and controlled, planned model, right?
Yep.
Versus what I would think of when I say capitalism, or really you should have to probably say free market capitalism in front of it, where you and I are each free to determine what's best for our own self-interests, right? So think of the words like individualism, right? America was built on rugged individualism, as opposed to collectivism. So, individualism, like we see in the United States or used to, is, I believe, important because if you and I are different, then you and I are seeing the world differently, and you and I see different problems in the world. And that means that I have a unique perspective on how to solve these problems. You see how to solve those problems. And so we can have creativity, and we can have ideas, and we can have imagination, and we can solve problems and all these things. But what you may say, like in a kind of like a contrast, if you guys have seen some stuff that goes on in China, where kids are basically brought up in middle school all reciting the same mantra, right? And they're like basically turning them into robots. And so that's just, that'd be the opposite extreme of that example. So I guess back to your question, how do we see, what kind of signs are we looking at? Well, does the economy appear to be becoming more free, or more captured and more controlled? Right? And I think it's obvious, right? It's becoming, and it's what's called, another word for it would be called a command economy versus a free economy. And so from an economy standpoint, if we want to look at like what's going on in the United States right now specifically, is we have the United States is in massive debt, about $28 trillion as of today. Our deficit is about 100% of what we're bringing in. So we're bringing in about 3 trillion, we're spending about 6 trillion. So we're losing about 3 trillion a year we have to borrow just to make ends meet. On top of that, we've done just now, we're 2 months through the year, we've done 6 trillion of stimulus already this year. We'll probably be at 10 trillion by the end of the year. So where does that money come from? More debt, of course, right? And who funds that debt, right? It goes through like a bond program. Well, nobody wants to fund it. So the bonds are going up like crazy. So the yield, or how much the bond pays, the interest, just since August of last year has gone up 150%.
Wow.
Imagine if the interest rate on your home went up 150% in 6-7 months. And now imagine if you had $28 trillion of debt.
Right.
Okay. Now, at the same time, the dollar index, when you look at the strength of the dollar compared to other currencies, it's dropping like a rock. So we have the bond yields going up and the currency coming down at the same time. That's a bad problem. So the Fed is stuck between two choices. Do we either strengthen the dollar to save that, but then the bond market blows up, or do we save the bond market, but then the dollar falls apart? And that's kind of, they're like damned if you do, damned if you don't, so to speak. Unless there's one other choice. The one other choice is to take the free market. So the free market decides what the bond rates would be. The free market decides what the exchange rate of the dollar would be.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't like that, then what's our other option? To command it, to take control of that market. And so that's where we're at right now. If they're going to try to even save this remotely, they're going to have to take over the more than they already have been. Of course, they've been taking it over slowly. None of this stuff is like a light switch, like you flip it on and off, right? This is like, it happens gradually, but you ask what the signs are. So these are the signs, like look for the economy to be taken more and more over. Look at Obamacare, took over 2/3 of the economy in one fell swoop, was just taken over by the government. And so those are the signs that we're looking for.
Yeah, wow.